Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 33 from Figure It Out with Fatema. Happy Monday. Hope everyone is having a great start to the week. Um, if you're new here, we're live on my LinkedIn channel, my YouTube, and on Enrico's LinkedIn page as well. So, welcome. Say hello and put your comments on the comments section on any of the platforms, and we will make sure to answer any of your questions. Say hello, where you're joining us from. And if you're new here, my name is Fatema El-Wakeel. I'm a data strategy evangelist. I work in data and emerging tech, in industry and in academia as part of the University of Cambridge as a researcher, and the General Assembly for the University of Manchester. I'm also started doing some executive career coaching. So this is a perfect session to start actually speaking about careers and knowing exactly what you want in your, I guess, in your future. But with that, I couldn't really find Enrico is one of the best people I've had a chat with or spoken with when it comes to careers. So we've been working together for a while now, since I worked with my previous employer, and we've been working together, lots of chats, which is amazing. But with that, I guess Enrico, I can hand it over to you so you can introduce yourself and get the audience to know more about you.
Okay, great. Fatima, first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to be on your Figure It Out with Fatima podcast. I think it's such an amazing opportunity to invite me into your space. I know we've been working together over the last couple of months, and I've got to know you. We've got to know each other. And I think what the important part was that we shared interest and we shared value in
Mhm.
terms of what we both are driving. So I'm a career coach and a leadership and executive coach. I've been in the coaching, sort of informal coaching game for about a couple of years, a good 12 years, if not a bit longer. But I've now formally started coaching more sort of, on a professional level for the last 2 years. And so I'm coming tonight to share a bit of insights, share the knowledge that I have, and hopefully whoever's listening in today leaves with a bit more information, leaves more empowered, upskilled. And I guess tonight is just around conversations, right? um, I think just having great conversations without sounding too formal. um, I think that's sort of one thing we sort of wanted to achieve tonight, was not to make it too formal, but I think maybe just share a bit of insights. And I think I'm hoping to share a bit of my experience as well, and how career transition has been a big part of where I am today, and how that could potentially be a bit, a sort of a motivation for somebody else out there.
Yes. Oh, I can't wait for today. Like, seriously. I know we have great chats behind the camera, and we had like great chats previously in all our conversations. And
Yeah,
it's time to bring it on the camera and actually get people to see those kind of,
yeah,
chats. And we discuss so many things.
yeah.
And I think
We can go on forever, right?
I know. So it's like, oh, we have to stop here because we've been going for a while. So, but I'll try to make sure that we get the most out of this, half an
Yeah.
hour. And if we need more, we can always, put another slot in and also answer the questions that the audience
Yes.
will bring. So, with that, let me start with. I think you and I always had that chat about an intentional career. And we have a similar mindset as like we can shape the career, we can make it happen. And it's kind of leading with ourselves.
Hmm.
And it's not, and I know I've seen today's post, which you've put through on LinkedIn, which was amazing. It was spot on. But I'll take it from there and maybe just when we say intentional career leadership or intentionally managing or shaping the career, as a career coach, how would you explain that to someone who's moving from a job to the other or, just still figuring out um, how to manage the career?
Yeah, it's basically just taking control of the driver's seat. Right? If you go and you get into a car and you are the passenger in that car, you are basically at the mercy of the person driving that car, right? So wherever that driver takes you, that's where you're going to go. Similar with your career. If you're going to leave the destination and the trajectory and the direction and the steps of your career in somebody else's hand, be it your line manager, be it your company, they're going to take you on their journey, right? So when you make career decisions and you're intentional around your career trajectory, it's basically you sitting in that driver's seat and in control of the decisions you make, the steps you take, the direction your career sort of grows into, and that is where we say that is where you take intentional steps into taking control of your career. I shared something very interesting on, as you alluded to in the in my LinkedIn post this morning, and it says that the average person will have 12 different jobs during their lifetime. The question isn't whether your career will change, it's whether you will lead that change or let it happen to you. Now, it takes me back
Wow.
to my own experiences as well. Often, when you go into that mid year review or you go into your performance discussion or your personal development plan at your company, you always lead or you always go into that conversation leaving it up to the manager or your line manager to lead that conversation, and that is where you're allowing that person to take control of your career or of your next move or your promotion or your development in the workplace. So that's a nice example of where you can take ownership and control of your career. And I've seen it happening time and time again, especially when people are sort of close to retirement or they at their end of their sort of what they think is the end of their career. The notion is always around, I should have or I could have, or if things were different, I would have gone into this particular career path or that particular career path. And that is basically the importance of taking control of your career.
I love it. And I love how you explain that a lot of people come at a point and just wait for this kind of, you know, whether it's for their manager or for that, mid-year review, end of year review, or, oh no, 3, 4 years into a role and just like, oh, it's not what I wanted. And I think that's the bit where it's really important to understand exactly what a person wants. And we don't know what we don't know. So I
Mm,
guess it's just going through this experience of knowing what the available options out there, and then you know making the decision. And also, I think part of it is this, although we're saying leading intentionally, I think part of it is also exploring. Because a lot of the times
yeah.
when people chat with me about careers, I'm like, do you want to be a subject matter expert? Do you want to be a data engineer, like coming from an analytics perspective or a data perspective? Or do you want to be a manager or a director or a CDO at a point?
Mm,
And there isn't right or wrong. It
yeah.
is just part of it is just demystifying or trying to figure out this kind of journey somehow. And
Mm,
it's like, oh, you know what, this is actually what I enjoy, so let me intentionally move or redirect myself.
yeah.
And I think you've said, you mentioned, like, you've already transitioned careers, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And I think just to take it a step back, Fatima, around self-awareness, right? I always say that if you're looking at developing yourself in any area, right, whether it be in your career, whether it be in your sort of your personal space, etc., the first step in terms of self-development and personal development is self-awareness, right? So I need to know who I am, what do I want, what impact do I want to make, what skills do I have, what do I want to be, and then how do I get there, right? And those are all reflective questions that are going to be important for you in terms of taking that next step. It's as if you're working towards a goal. You need to understand sort of what do you have within you in order to get to that particular goal, right? And I mean, we can all agree on this platform to tonight around a lot has changed post the pandemic, right? Before, I think it was very sort of clear around, if you are working towards your career trajectory, it's about that next best role, or getting that promotion, or getting on that executive board, or getting high sort of leadership roles. And post pandemic, I think a lot of the thinking has shifted more towards, is what I'm doing now aligned to my value system? Is what I'm doing now going to contribute to me from a alignment perspective, from a passion perspective? Is the work that I'm doing, is it creating impact, or is the company I'm working at, are they creating impact in a positive way? So you'll find that a lot of the assessment now around those next roles is around, how does this align to my values, my belief system? And I like the fact that you mentioned around the different types of roles, because I almost want to, just phrase that question differently around, instead of saying, I want to work towards being a data analyst or a data engineer, um, reframe that question and ask, what do I want to do? What value do I want to add? What impact do I want to make? The shift in terms of role titles also is already happening. I think we're
Mm.
moving more towards, a skill based sort of, economy. I think the World Economic Forum issued their 2025 report, and a lot of focus was around the skill development part, right? So they reckon by 2030, around 1 billion people will have to be reskilled or upskill themselves to align to the now current skills. And so you want to ask yourself the question in terms of, is that role title still going to be relevant in the next 5 to 6 years or the next 5 years? Um, Instead of asking the question around the title, rather rephrase it in terms of, what value do I want to add, and that function and that role itself will come from what it is that you do, as opposed to the title, if that makes sense.
I agree. So it's more of the what you do in the area, not just the title that is there.
Hmm.
And I think one of the things that I'd love, like, I'll just take it from where you've left it here now. And I think that's what I love about the conversation.
Go
It's
for
just
it.
like
Go
you
for
feel
it.
like step by step, we just go somewhere. So, yes, don't focus on the title, but also the opportunities that will open, because there are some roles which are not here now. And that's
Yes.
again linked to the post that you've put up in the morning, which is, what are the roles that are being shaped? And I'll say, so for a lot of people, they know that I'm a qualified accountant by trade. So this is really where I started in finance. But then when I started doing finance roles, when I graduated from uni, data and analytics was not an option. There's computer science, which is
Yeah.
very IT and technical, which is completely okay, but it wasn't numbers, it wasn't data. But then navigating through, new opportunities came up, and with each new opportunity it's like, okay, reporting, I'm interested in visualizations, and then I'm interested in data engineering, but I can't really sit in a room and code because I get bored and I need people, I'm more of a people person. And that self-discovery, I think till those roles that I've done, I think a few years ago, they weren't there when I graduated. Like, there wasn't a data engineer, there wasn't a visualization specialist, or a product owner, or, and those are like great titles, but they didn't mean anything
Mm,
to anyone like 10 years ago.
mm,
So I think that's the bit when, while intentionally, I guess, back to the intentional piece of leading a person's career, is just being open to seeing what are being rules are being I guess invented. I don't know how to say it, but like new roles that have never been there, but also roles that are retiring,
mhm. Yeah.
roles that
Abs-
will never exist.
Absolutely. I think That's important. Remember, it's also about what the market is asking, right? From a skills perspective. So you can go and study, complete a qualification, and if you haven't done your sort of background research around, is this qualification still relevant within the market that I'm sort of, hoping to go into, then you might find yourself, getting that qualification, getting to the market and realizing, oh, that particular qualification has now gone redundant, or that particular role no longer exists because of the shift of, the business world, business objectives, the introduction of AI as an example. And I think it's important. I think it's going to be naive if you're going to assume that any sort of qualification would gain me access to the job market if you haven't done enough research around whether or not it would still be relevant. And I think that's an important part of. And if I can maybe ask you a question, right? So when you shifted from accounting to, data engineer and more the data analytics space, um, was something that happened automatically, or was it more an awareness around your skill sets and your interest?
I think it was more of passion. So I started doing the things that I enjoy doing, and
Mm,
then suggesting projects. Yeah, even within my MBA, started, yeah, with that, with the MBA and with working in different companies, just picking the projects that I'm enjoying, and then I'm like, okay, but I don't have the skill set now, so I'll go back to your point. It's like, okay, now this is needed. I actually can't use the software, or I can't code. So what do I do? And then I'd go and learn SQL, or I'd go and learn Python and take the courses and then apply them. Because as much as I think back to your point, well, yes. So if you take courses and the skills that are not needed, it's a waste of time and money.
mm.
And time is money as well. But
Yeah.
also, if you take the courses and they are needed, but you're not applying them somewhere, again, it's a waste of time because you don't know how to apply it. It's only the applications that make
Mm,
things stick. But
mm,
to answer your question, it was more of, I guess, understanding, knowing my passion while working, and then starting to learn the skills that I want. So I'm not sure if
mm.
that's automatically or not.
I think it was done intentionally, right? Because again, you mentioned something, it was aligning more to your passion. So
Yes.
it means you took time out to use that opportunity to be self-aware around those next steps and what makes sense for you at the time. And it might not have been at that point in time where you wanted to be, but it was part of the process. It was part of the steps to get to that particular point. So I think in all intents and purposes, it was more intentional as opposed to I fell into this,
Oh.
by trial and error, or, by mistake kind of thing,
No.
right?
Took a lot of late nights and studying, and so yeah, it was
Absolutely.
definitely, I do agree, intentionally. I could see myself moving. At the start of it, you don't see it. You see the interest in the topic, but then at a point you're like, okay, I can either allocate my time here or there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, so it is
But, mm.
intentional. Yes, I would
Yeah.
agree.
So that is part of the what we call the decision making model, right? So when you become self aware, right, and you're aware of the vision that you're working towards or the goal that you're working towards, you might not be clear at that particular point in time. So there might not be clarity, but there's a magnet that's drawing you, right? And so of course, once you have that sort of attraction to that particular part or that particular path from a career perspective, you now then start making decisions in terms of what is the way that will, like understanding coding, you went to go and do a qualification because you wanted to know how this particular coding or how this particular part of your role makes sense so that you can make sense of what it is that you're needing to do, right? So again, there's intention, there's purpose, and there's also decision making around what would be the next sort of sensible possible way. And when you make decisions, it's also important to use frameworks. So if you look at, for instance, making a decision in terms of your career, a good question to ask yourself is, does this opportunity align with my values? Does it stretch my skills? Does it move me toward my
Mm.
particular goal? And asking these important reflective questions is going to be part of that journey for you.
Yes.
Mm,
Because I think that's the bit sometimes, and I think people are different, but I love
mm,
what you were saying. Like, intentionally, like saying, do I want to be part of this journey? Does this work for me or not? That can be the career itself in terms of like, do I want to have that job or not? Do I want to continue? And I think some of it is just like at a point you're like, am I sacrificing finance for data? Am I ready to take that decision? But also part based on what you're saying now, which I think it clicked is, do I want to work in certain industry? Does it align with my values? And there isn't like there's some like I'm people know that I'm very sporty and I'm into health. So
yeah,
there's some industries where I wouldn't apply. Uh, it's okay, but I think it's not just aligned
yeah,
somehow. Um, and I think that's important. Do I want to go up in the morning? When I wake up in the morning, I want to be passionate. So I worked in IT, I worked in hospitality, I worked in, automotive, things where I enjoy, you know,
mm,
doing. So I love what you're saying. It has to be aligned with the values because the last thing you want is to wake up in the morning and you're like, you know what, I hate the job or I hate
mm.
that industry.
Yeah, yeah,
L-
absolutely. And it's also
Let me.
that answer on not yet versus no. So instead of saying no to a particular opportunity, you might want to reframe that and answer it as not yet,
Hmm.
because it could also look, if you have a plan and you made a decision, you'd be able to confidently answer that question to say, okay, this role looks great. You've proactively approached me, or you see that I have the particular skills, but not quite yet for me at this point in time because my journey is more intentional around a certain path as well. Yeah,
And sometimes it's not yet, as you said, but maybe later on something will
yeah.
change. So I'll take it from here because I think we have a question. Let me try to show it on. Hold on for a second. I need to show it on the screen. So, okay. So, hi, Atif. How are you? Hopefully, you're enjoying the chat. And for everyone watching, please send your questions. So, what Atif is asking is, in a fast changing job market, which skill do you think will matter more in the next 5 years? Technical expertise or adaptability?
That's a great question.
It's a really good one.
Very great question, right? Because I think we all sort of wanting to know what skills are going to be
Mm,
relevant, and I think if I use the World Economic Forum report coupled with a few articles, one would see that I mean, there's a couple of skills. There won't be one particular skill. I think within your space, Fatima, you may be able to maybe elaborate on the skills. But if I think of the difference between technical and adaptability, so if you think of, I mean, we didn't get to this part, but AI as an approach in terms of a partnership approach in terms of upskilling yourself. I think if you look at what everyone is saying around AI, it should be used as a means to do all those menial tasks and all those streamline and automate and create efficiencies so that it allows us to be able to do all the critical thinking,
mhm,
the problem solving, the creativity. So I think the skills that would be sort of more sort of sought after from a role specific or from a company or a job market specific. I think those that are going to be great at emotional intelligence, creativity, um, you know, critical thinking, problem solving. I think those are things that AI can't do yet, and I'm saying yet because there's so many things that are happening all the time, right?
I know.
I think those would be the critical skills that would still be very much relevant, and I think that the job market would still look for.
I agree. And I think I'll take it more towards the data
Yeah,
now in because I know like I think from what you're saying, definitely yes. So if you're working purchasing, finance or any of the industries, definitely yes. From a data and emerging tech perspective, I think if for me when I think about it in the future, I think definitely, as you're saying, it's the soft skills. It is the stakeholder management, uh, working with people, adapting to the technology and trying to translate it from a data and tech perspective to non-tech people. So definitely that would be the most important skill. But that doesn't mean if you have a technical experience that you will not do any technical jobs. I think there will still be space, but it will be transformed. So instead of having the roles that we have at the moment, I think we'd have a bit of a different roles. Things like, for example, governance for AI. I think at a point that would be really important because although AI can, do a lot of things, but it will need a human interface always to govern it and to manage it in a way. So there'll be roles that we don't know at the moment that will be key in the future, and there'll continue to be changes.
Yeah.
But I think the number one is definitely, yes, the soft skills, because even if there is AI and if there is, automation, digital twins, all the data stuff that we do, there's still a need for some technicalities, but it would be the soft skills that stand out. So hopefully that answers your question, Atif. And we have another question. Well, I'm loving the session today. I think we're getting so Mohammed. Hi Mohammed. Um Mohammed is asking, what are the most trends in your career and how you can adapt with it?
Um, okay, I'm trying to understand Mohammed's question, and I'm hoping I'm understanding it correctly. So it's around um, how does one adapt to career changes in terms of the trends. I'm hoping, Mohammed, that's
That's
how
what I
I can
understood.
phrase your
Please let
question.
us know if we
Yeah,
misunderstood the question.
yeah, yeah. I think overall, if I think there's yeah, there's definitely a shift that's happening, right, from a career perspective, and I think um, a trend is more towards how does one, number one, take ownership of your career. I think that's what we alluded to, or what we spoke about in depth a bit earlier on. But how does your what you now presume as a career is also a conversation, right? Because I think a good couple of years ago, career is seen as you go, you work in a role, you work at a company for 20, 30 years, you retire, and like, oh, great, I had a great career at that particular company. Now, career is sort of more, I guess there's an expansion on that because one can still run up a career up until the age of 70, 80, depending on what it is that you're doing, right? And career can now is also shaped differently towards portfolio working, fractional work, project based, gig environment, self-employed, obviously independent contractors. So it really depends on you, I guess, in terms of where you see yourself in that sphere of your career. But to answer your question on adaptation in terms of your career transitions, I think the biggest part here is around self awareness and your personal branding.
I love that. Self awareness and personal branding. And people underestimate a lot the importance of actually both self
Of both.
awareness and the personal
Mm,
branding because this is your personality. When you go into the job, what makes a person stand out is really the person himself or herself.
mm,
Um,
mm. And it's
so,
about, sorry Fatima,
mm,
to latch onto that, it's about asking what is your personal branding will obviously lead into your value offering, right?
mhm.
So when you position yourself from a career perspective, it's really you going into the market and saying, this is what I offer, this is my value add, this is the benefit I can add to this project, this company, this gig, and if you're looking at it from that perspective, if you understand what your value offering is and what your personal brand is, it's easier for you to position yourself within the market. And in that itself, it could lean itself towards, like I said, fractional work, career portfolio, or portfolio work, project based work, etc.
Yeah. So I'll take this question from a data and emerging tech perspective now, because I think we're looking at
Yes, you're
just
the
good.
expert in
We're
that
coming
field,
it.
so please go
We're
for it.
coming. No, I love that because I think we come to things from, and I think that's the beauty of the chats that we are having.
Yeah.
So I'll come to that question from Mohammed from a data and emerging tech perspective. So especially with emerging tech, there's so many trends, and I think most of us would remember the metaverse a few years ago and AI when it went up and then it just faded and then came back really hard with the with ChatGPT and all that, and obviously digital twins. And so the trends are out there, and I think if you work in the area of emerging tech, it's trends, ups and downs. And for me, when I manage my career, I really think about it again intentionally. Back to Enrico's words, is intentionally thinking like, okay, this is happening. I can either run after the trend and really focus and be just an AI expert or a digital twin expert or call myself the metaverse person, which is okay, fine. If you're doing that, that's a way to manage it and adapt. Some people do change their titles and change, their perspective and run with the trends. For me, I think I'm more intentional. I know that I'm a data person. Data serves the emerging tech. And I've been a data strategy evangelist for years, whether in industry, in academia, or even in my career, in my coaching. So you can I think intentionally think about either you want to work with a trend and change, or you can adapt by learning the trend. So I've learned emerging tech, learned digital twins. What does that mean? Process digital twinning versus actually physical digital twinning, AI, machine learning. So I've started to understand all that, but to adapt, but that doesn't mean that I change my career with each trend that comes out. I think that's how I approach it. If that was a personal question, this is how I guess my answer would be. So yeah, my career personally, that's what I do. So Artif is saying you're both amazing. Oh, thank you.
Oh,
Thanks,
thank
Artif.
you.
It's very kind of you.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's good to get that
Thanks.
positive feedback
I
because
know.
you're not sure if it's landing, well with everyone. So
Yes, but you
thanks,
guys,
thanks, Yasser.
but you guys are amazing as well because I think you put like great questions.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks, Mohammed. So yes, I think it's such a great conversation. I can't believe we're already 30 minutes
I know, I know.
in.
It's. I think we need another session or two, um,
I
just
agree.
to cover some of the points. But I also just wanted to add in very quickly around
Please.
the concept of lifelong learning as a lifestyle, as opposed to it being limited to a role or a career as well.
So, that's
And I
music to
think
my ears now.
that is so important. And I think we're shifting away from sort of just learning a skill for that particular role and forgetting about it. It's around how do we and there's different ways of learning now. There's apart from just the formal qualifications, and yes, there's certain technical qualifications that is needed. There are, I think, micro learning is something that's sort of just emerging, and I think it's something that I would always encourage. Is what are those things that I can learn as I grow and transition my career, or as I expand in my career as well. Always be in that and invite learning as a lifestyle, as opposed to it being, something that's there and we only do it when the work requires us to do it. But invite it into your lifestyle and your space. And like I said, there's different ways of learning.
I love that. And I am a big fan of learning, and you can learn on the go now. Life is so easy. Like if you're walking, you can listen to a podcast. That's the type of learning. Someone would say something, it's like, you know what? It's like soft skills, and like, that's amazing. You can learn while you're like yesterday, I think I was at the gym doing like a spinning thing on
Yeah.
my own, and I just like had a session on, and I just was watching it while exercising. So there's so many ways to learn, but also I think I'll take this point and I'll have to say something because it really like it's a point that I always like. A lot of people say education is not important and don't worry about the degrees. I would say don't go for the degrees for the sake of degrees. Go for the degrees for the sake of the experience you gain throughout the degree. And I
I
think
like that. Yeah. Please write that down so that I can take it.
I don't know. It's like I feel like it's
But that's so important. That's so valid. I think that in itself, I like that you've raised that part because I think it's not the redundancy of formal qualification. Formal qualification should still be there. And to your point, if you're going for it, go for the experience. Because remember, it still provides that foundation,
Mm.
for you. And that sort of just opens that sort of concept around certain thought patterns. But it also puts you in touch with people that are sort of like-minded and, shares the same school of thought, which is important. So, yeah, awesome.
So yeah, I think that's because I know a lot of people now, especially influencers on different platforms. They're like, "Oh, you don't need that degree, and you don't need that bachelor or the MBA or the masters or the PhD." I'm like, don't do it for the sake of the title. I think
Mm,
that's like if I hadn't done my MBA, I wouldn't be where I am, not because of the
mm.
title, but because oh my god, the mindset, the shift that was
Yeah,
there, it's just I can't explain it. But if you
yeah,
obviously go just for the sake of ticking the boxes and learning the classes, then yeah, it's not the same value. So, but yeah, that's I just wanted to put it out there because I think that's the bit where I see it a lot at the moment with yeah, but learning is amazing. It's a life learning, and I think that's the session in itself, like how to manage the learning experience. It's at the moment it's just at the tip of our hands, really.
yeah.
So with that, I think we are definitely yeah, we've more than our we've yeah, it's like 37 minutes in, which I love because to be honest, I enjoyed today so much. The
Mm,
conversations and the chats and I think there's lots of gems there. So but
yeah.
definitely we need more than that session. So I want to personally thank you, Enrico. Like I genuinely enjoyed it, loved it,
Me too.
and and
Yeah,
I can't wait to have you again on the um on Figure It Out with Fatema. I also thank the listeners for the questions. I think what made it even like I think the questions and the interactions were amazing today. Really appreciate
yeah.
that. Um and with that, I think I just want to thank everyone and I wish you all a great week. Again, thank you very much, Enrico.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me and entrusting me to be part of this conversation. And I really look forward to the next time around. And I also just want to just wish you all the best and success with your podcasts. I think Fatima, it's something amazing that you're doing. I think creating that awareness and just spreading the word of, just being consciously aware around the decisions that you make, even from a career perspective. I think that is such an important conversation and discussion. I think that
Thank
anyone
you.
in their career path can have, whether they're entering the workplace, whether they're sitting at the mid of their career, or when they're even exiting the workplace. I think the what you're doing here and the awareness that you're spreading is such an amazing and a phenomenal sort of part of what it is that you're doing for the community, and I think we just want to applaud you
Thank
tonight.
you. Thank you. That means a lot to me coming from you. And definitely, like, I couldn't have done it without amazing people like yourself. So thank you for making the time to come here and share your experience with the listeners. And yeah, thanks for all the chats and the conversations. And hopefully that would be useful for you as well, the people who are listening, whether on the YouTube or LinkedIn or other podcasts available on Spotify or Apple Podcast. And make sure to ask us questions. So we're continuing this conversation afterwards. So if you have any questions, put them in the comments, and Enrico and I will make sure to answer.
Yeah,
Um, Thank you again, and have an awesome week ahead. Thank you all.
great. Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Thank you.